Hi, I'm Mike Wallace with Empowered Data Solutions. Today, I'm excited to take you through a detailed walkthrough of our Empowered GPT demo file. This file showcases how FileMaker developers can leverage AI functionalities like ChatGPT and semantic search to enhance their solution. Let's dive in. First up is our basic chat functionality. This allows you to interact with an AI like ChatGPT. Simply enter a prompt and hit send. You'll receive a response from the AI. A straightforward way to start exploring AI interactions with FileMaker. One problem is that there's no memory with a simple chat. It's a simple send and receive. This can be very powerful, as I will show shortly. But if you need more, we can keep track of the memory of the conversation like we do here. This feature maintains the context of your conversation with the AI. You can start a new thread or continue with an existing one. This is particularly useful for more complex interactions where context is important. We're simply showing this information in FileMaker records, but you can show it in a more stylized way. Speaking about being able to do more with a simple chat functionality, this example shows how I originally downloaded a list of 105,000 records. Those records had ISBN, book name, author, the publisher, and the year it was published. It didn't have this genre, confidence, or this summary of the book. Using just a basic functionality with something called tools, I used the OpenAI API to fill in additional information like this summary and the confidence score and the genre of the book. These were provided by the LLM, and I confirmed a good number of them, but since this is test data, I didn't go into a lot of detail of confirming that the summary matched the book. I set this up so that I would have a good set of data to use for the semantic search and the embedding. Moving on to that, these first three pages use the OpenAI API and the Pinecone API to do the embedding and then store that information on the Pinecone server, and then semantic searches are done via Pinecone. We'll go into a more modern way of doing it with FileMaker's new functionality after that. What is being embedded in each of these examples is simply this summary right here. I'm not embedding the genre and I'm not embedding any of the other information, though I am passing up some of this information to the Pinecone API. That way you can also do filters before you do your search if you need to. I show all of the embedding information here. This is actually the FileMaker embedding that I will get to later. This is where I had the embedding information stored before I sent it to the Pinecone API. After I sent it to the Pinecone API, I stored where on the Pinecone I stored that. We'll get into that in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and embed this current record here. And here is the embedding information that was just created. It's important when you do the embedding to make sure you know which model you're using for the embedding. We have text embedding 3 large, 3 small, and Ada 002 currently in this list that are embedding models. The reason why this is important is because later, whenever you do a semantic search, you need to embed your query the same way that you embedded the data that you're querying against. After you've embedded your information, you can do what's called upserting or uploading this data to Pinecone. You need to select an index or create an index. I'm pulling the information here. As you can see, there's 105,079 vectors here. This is the information that is returned from Pinecone about that. You can see the vector count here. This namespace is empty right here because this is the default namespace, but you can choose a namespace and to separate like a folder the information that you're storing in Pinecone. I'm going to go ahead and upsert this one record. Now going back over here, and as I said, if I were to view this, it shows me where I stored the information on Pinecone. After your data has been upserted to Pinecone, then you're ready to do semantic search. This information that you type in here will be embedded and then sent off to Pinecone where the semantic similarity is compared to the other records that are up there, and then matching records are returned. In the settings here, you can choose how closely you want your matches to return, at least from 0 to 1, 1 being 100% match, 0 meaning it doesn't match. Actually, I believe it's from negative 1 to 1. Sorry about that. But at least 0 0.5 here. And here is top K is the number of records at the most that you want to return from Pinecone. You will need your OpenAI API key and Pinecone API key in order to work with this file. Here is the similarity to what I searched to what it found. Again, it's searching against this information right here, not the book name, but you can see I flip through the records. You see the similarity is dropping because these are the top 50 records sorted by similarity. Here's another set of books with Star Wars theme. So this works. And why would you want to not go ahead and use this? One, you are sending your information up to the cloud, though, again, the only thing that you're storing up there are these kind of numbers, nothing that is text that makes sense to anyone. No one can reverse engineer this information to get your data back. For large data sets, this may be the way to go because it does on 500,000 records. This would be faster than working with the FileMaker functionality. But all of the scripts that make up these three pieces right here are about 570 lines, which the next functionality that I'm going to go over with the new FileMaker 2024 script steps, that is taken down to about just over 80 lines. There's significant difference in complexity and what you have to do in order to accomplish the semantic search and the embedding using the FileMaker script steps that we have now. If I were to do the same search, sometimes the first search takes a little bit longer, but still decently fast. Again, we're talking about 105,000 records that it's searching. And there should be 1 or 2 books in here related to this. I am also running, this server is a M1. And so this is where better hardware is going to be better. This laptop is M3 Max, but the server is a little bit slower. Either way, it was pretty quick to return this information. And School of Wizardry, quite a few different wizard type books in here. So that was, again, I guess I jumped ahead to the semantic search on this, but we've already, the embedding here in FileMaker stores the information in a container field, and it's actually searching directly on that container field versus doing it outside the database in Pinecone. One thing that helped me understand the cosine similarity and the vectorization, that kind of thing, is by taking the complex numerical data and reducing it down through some complex mathematics that were created by some very smart people to just 3 dimensions instead of 1,536 dimensions, the way it's stored in the container fields or in Pinecone. And that allows us to map this functionality. And that's what this part of the file does. So I can export, and what this export will do is based on the number set here, which, as I note, I would recommend starting with a smaller number and then working your way up. I've done a lot of testing on this, but I know that 3,000 doesn't take that long to run. And so I'm going to export this with this. What it does is it finds first it does a semantic search, and then it just extends the found set by randomly adding out of those 105,000 records, randomly jumping to different records and adding it to the original 50 to pad it so we get our original found set from the semantic search along with an additional, in this case, 2,950 other points to plot. When this is done exporting, then I will show you how it's able to process and show a 3D rendering of this information. This does take a little bit of time, so I'll fast forward as needed on this. There's definitely more optimized ways to do this, but I wanted it to be random, and so I'm just jumping around and adding records, etc. So this is done, and it tells us it's on our desktop in a folder called Empowered GPT. So here I choose the file. The centering, you can play with these on and off. The centering centers the plot around the search criteria that I embedded, and the highlight creates all of the other points as being translucent versus the ones that match the semantic find as being solid so that they're easier to see. But you can play with those and see which way you like to see the data. On this hardware, this takes about 30 to 40 seconds to run. On my previous laptop, which was a 2018 model MacBook Pro, it took about 3 minutes. So when this is finished processing, then it will show 3D plot. And then I will show you another way to run this information as well. So here's our plot. Because I did it centered on the search, as you can see, if I were to zoom in, the little black dot right here is the search criteria that I put in. And all of these other diamond shaped dots here are ones that match semantically, those 50 records that matched. As far as you can see, all these are about wizards and witches and that kind of stuff. And then all of the other data here is information, all the other random things that we picked. One of the things that I found very interesting in this was being able to see, for example, the grouping. Again, this was embedded not with the genre, it was embedded only with the description of the book. But as you can see, all of these romance books here are all grouped together. And we have books over here that are mysteries. And then these books over here are science fiction, etc. So the thing that is interesting about this and what is useful about this is that you can find outliers in your data. So you're expecting certain reviews or certain data that you have to all be similar, and you find something that is not similar. You can actually go through and, for example, if I say fantasy here, and I turn on this fantasy, then here are all of the fantasy records. And what I did was I double clicked on this and that turned off everything except for that. And then you can see like this one is a fantasy record, but it's very different from the other one. And then out of all of the fantasy records that were plotted, again, this is only 3,000 records. A lot of them do group together, and then the ones that were semantically similar to ours were all together in this little area here. I found this very interesting and helpful, and also I see it being very useful for finding different information, finding out patterns in different information. Again, because the genre was not encoded in with this, this could be anything. This could be grouped by male and female or grouped by college degree or like education level or that kind of thing. And then the information that is being embedded could be completely different than what you're color coding it as. But then you can find interesting information about how things group using this functionality. So as I mentioned here, I plotted the full 105,000 records, but to do so, I needed to use Python versus JavaScript just for limitations. Go ahead and open up this file. Again, this is the full 105,000 records here. and it makes it a lot more visible as far as how things like Western are all grouped together and still has the same functionality as far as centering it on your search criteria, etc. So this is also available to go through. So that is the functionality that we have so far in this file, and there are updates that are already in the works, partially complete, just now polished for public consumption. Some things like using tools to interact with FileMaker. Again, a tool for a LLM is simply a way to return information back so that we can call, for example, FileMaker script in an ordered way. That gives the ability for LLMs to actually make decisions and call different FileMaker scripts. It's going to be very exciting to go through that functionality coming up. So that's a wrap. I hope that this walkthrough helps you understand how to leverage the AI functionality within FileMaker. And if you have any questions or need further assistance, feel free to reach out to Empowered Data Solutions. Thanks for watching and keep empowering your learning to keep empowering your data.